it's very well known that it was hard. But it is true that if you want to pursue a medical career there, you can still do it, and there is for sure a big population of people in need. But in my case, I feel like um, surgery has been involved, and it's with time, it's been getting more and more interlaced with like high tech, and I would not be able to develop the skills to be able to do that kind of the new surgery of this century or of this decade if I stayed in Venezuela. I also have a particular background since I traveled across the world. I was very young thanks to my dad's work. So I grew up in a family that took immigrating as the normal, was our normal. We lived in Asia and Europe and my brother was born here in the US and then also in South America. So learning and understanding different cultures, and I think that was something that was natural to me. And immigrating to the United States was special since I really grew up liking and understanding their incredible ethics, the politeness that they have as a society, and how welcoming they are to diversity and how they live in a melting pot.
It's very amazing. Thank you for sharing. Maybe you can go next with Doctora Montañez.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that for me was like when I was like during medical school, I realized that even though like in Colombia we have like amazing mentors and I knew that and like doctors and I knew that I will have like a very, very good like clinical knowledge and I could become a very good like ENT attending, I knew that I wanted to not only grow and learn like my clinical and surgical skills, but I also wanted to grow as a researcher and also like learn more about mentorship. And I think that those aspects, at least in Colombia, are not that well developed yet. So I think that's what like really brought me more to the US, because yeah, as I said before, I wanted to learn more about research and also like thinking about like the impact that I want to have in the world. I knew that like doing that from the US, it's easier, not only because of their resources, but also because they are more developed in research and even also like with the technology that they do. That they have, sorry. So and I saw like my mentors doing that type of impact. Even when they were doing like research in the US, they were impacting like the whole world. So I thought that was what I wanted to do, and I kind of like confirmed it through my rotations and like experiences in the US. And also ENT here in the US is more broad than in Colombia. They are more like surgical subspecialty, like fellowships, and also like the technology that you have access to is broader too. So I think those were my reasons.
That's really amazing. As a Colombian, I share a lot of what you said because I'm passionate about research and I know that we have a lot of opportunities over there. I would like to hear now from Dr. Warikuku. What's your experience that made you move to the US?
Hey guys, first of all, thank you for the invite. It's really nice to have this kind of opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. The question is funny. I didn't want to come. This was not my plan. I'm doing this for a second time. So this wasn't my plan. You know, if you ask yourself, do you want to do the residency 2 times in a, no, you don't. So, and I guess that stories like me repeats, you know, several times with different IMGs, which is, I think is a nice thing to know. But the fact that the most of you will come very early in your career, just right after, a little after your med school graduation, is very nice because you will encounter everything you need to be a successful surgeon in any surgical specialty. You know, you will come to a country that has all the opportunities not only for you to grow, but also for you to develop new things. You know, if you have ideas, it's also a great place to be. Here, I didn't want to come at the beginning, of course, because I wanted to stay home. I wanted to, I was already a surgeon. I wanted to do, surgeries in my community, etc. But see now, the first time that I was here, I actually came to Houston. And when I was kind of working as a first assist, I realized that there are so many things that I was missing, and even though we have great doctors, great universities, great hospitals, we do have a lot of experience in Latin America. The advance in technology that we have in the US, it's much, it's evident. The access to different surgical skills. We're talking about the robotic global surgical society. So the robot system is something that we don't have, access to all these things. So it's definitely as something to think of, and definitely a great advantage to be in a field that is currently, very developed, but in the next couple of years, great things are happening currently, and in the robotic area and everything related with minimal invasive. So I think it's a great specialty to go and continue to develop your career. And let's continue to talk about this topic because it's really exciting. But yeah, that was my honest answer. I didn't want to come. But now that I'm here, oh yes, I love it.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now we're going to get started with the first pillar.
Okay, I'm Dr. Josimar Mendez. I come from Venezuela, and I'm going to start with Dr. Montanes. Okay. Dr. Montanes, matching into a highly competitive specialty like ENT require outstanding usability performance, especially now that step 1 is pass or fail. Looking back, how did you strategically plan for your step 2 evaluation and timeline to maximize your score while balancing the rest of your application?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will say that, well, first, I was able to take my step 2 before graduating from med school, like kind of like while waiting for my graduation ceremony. So I didn't have to like balance studying and also like doing research and like applying for ENT. So that was a very good thing. But regarding like how to like study for step 2 and how to get like a good score, that especially for ENT and other competitive like more competitive specialties, very important. I think that for step 2 the most important thing is like doing a lot of questions. So like trying to finish your UWorld QBank, sorry, it's like the most important thing. It's different from step 1 because in step 1 you have like more resources, like an overwhelming amount of resources. I will say that is for step 2 that's not as necessary, like studying for each one of those resources, but sticking like to one QBank, and like setting a goal, like talk to your mentors, talk to other people that have matched in your specialty and ask them like how, like what's a score that is like safe, like what's the minimum that I should get to be able to match. And especially as an IMG, like you really want to like not have any like red flags. So like getting a good score, it's important. So first, that's what I did, like setting goal
What's going on?
I don't know.
It's like internet.
Hello. Sorry.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's black, but now we hear you. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Until what part did you hear?
Just the past few seconds. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry, what do you say? Until what part should I where should I restart?
and when your research experience, maybe.
The
We
research?
heard we heard everything about the step two and
Mhm.
making sure you have a high score and that
Okay.
strategy of all the Q
Okay.
and all the questions. We heard that part.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so asking your mentors, like what a good, did you hear that part? Like setting like a
You were
goal,
talking about
score.
mentors. You were talking about mentors to step two. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, like asking other people that have matched in your specialty is very important, and asking them like, what's a safe score for your step two. So that's what I did first, like setting up a goal and doing as many questions as I could. And when I had like 60 or 70% of the Q bank already answered, I started taking NBMEs to see like if my score was close to that goal. Um, yeah, so I think like that's what you should do, especially as an IMG. You don't want to have like any red flags. Um, so like getting a good score, it's like important. If there's anyone there that wants to do ENT from the people that are listening to us, I will say that having at least a 250, it's like a safe score. And I think like most programs would agree that after you have like a 250 or like a high like 255 or something like that, after that like it doesn't matter that much if you get like I don't know like a 260 versus a 255. Like it's not gonna make that much of a difference when you're applying. So yeah, so I will say like uh, answering a lot of questions. And if you want to have like another resource, I listened a lot to Divine Intervention. It's like this podcast. I don't know if you have heard about it. So it has like especially the ones like are like rapid reviews, and the ones that talk about like patient safety. I think are really good. So yeah, that's what I did for step two.
Thank you, Dr. Montanes. That is valuable perspective, especially for applicants preparing for competitive specialty. Now, I would like to turn to Dr. Acosta. Dr. Acosta, successfully navigated the USMLE journey while remaining involved in leadership and research with TROGSS for applicants trying to figure out their own timeline. How did you structure your study phases, and how did you manage to stay involved in extracurricular activities while preparing to take the exams?
Hi, thank you. It's a very interesting question. I definitely I had a hard time with this. So this was a learning journey for me. I believe that I think I failed initially in some of my structuring, and it's something that I've been having to improve. And so I can let you know some of my mistakes, which is the key is to perfect multitasking abilities of doing things at the same time, especially in my case, for example, unlike Dr. Montañez, who I didn't take my steps before I graduated. So once you graduate here in the US, the timer is running, it's ticking. And for them, it's very important how many years of graduation. It's not necessarily the most important thing. I have matched into residency even with 8 years of graduation. So it is possible, but it is an important thing to have an account. And if you are early and you're strategizing from the start, I definitely would recommend don't wait. Don't think that you have infinite time. Try to do everything as strategically, as condensed, but you do have to do it all well. You have to get your good steps to scores. And for example, with step one, there are so many resources that I think one of the things that I failed was I was good at asking friends and having access to Google Drives with all the sketching materials and finding a pathoma and all the resources. And then to some extent, you get overwhelmed with so many things to review and to read that you can progress too slowly. You have to do UWorld, you have to do first aid, you have to do flashcards, you have to do pathoma, you have to do sketchy. And there's a moment where you have to really take a step back and decide what are the best study strategies that have results for me, and how am I investing my time in the most effective way, efficient and effective. So, for example, one of the things I ended up doing, trying to find a sweet spot between finding in regards to Anki flashcards, which I think is a very common resource to practice UWorld questions and practice concepts. For a while, I did my QBank on UWorld. We would grab the code for the UWorld and do it with our friends at the same time, and then we would make flashcards on the same QBank from the same question. So we would progress with the same content, and we could share flashcards. So it would take us half the time to make the flashcards instead of, and that was because we decided to do custom flashcards, but you can also download decks that already exist that are also processed. Some of those decks have 15,000 flashcards. So that's another resource that you have to really make sure and decide if that's the best investment on time for you. So all the while, it is very important to ask around, especially repeating on what Dr. Montañez said, ask especially people that are interested in the same specialty than you, to find volunteer work, research fellowships. Some of them are official fellowships in institutions, but you can also find research fellowships that are kind of like a volunteer, like an observership situation, but you have access to research opportunities where you can publish, make publications and add that to your CV. Join associations and societies like TROGSS. In my case, one of the things I ended up doing after I finished my Kaplan, and I hadn't been able to take my step 1 by the end of my Kaplan. It just was not, the study that I was doing was not working for me. I went into community college and I got an associate's in health information technology. Wasn't the most thrilling thing to study, but it definitely gave me a very good insight into the healthcare system of the US. And so that was another way of learning about the healthcare system in the country that I'm trying to integrate, while keeping a student visa and staying in the same path and giving myself a little bit more time, but still keeping active. When you get to the end, they will ask you if you have any gaps. So it is important to make sure that when you're studying, when you're dedicating study time, it has to be super efficient and honestly as short as possible, because it will count as a gap. So if you can avoid that, and you can always have, even if it's part-time, even if it's some kind of research project that you're working some hours a day, but it doesn't have to be full-time, but if you can avoid gaps, that is another way to give yourself a little more time if you needed to study, but staying on track for a good application.
Thank you, Dr. Acosta. That's a great reminder that the applicant can continue growing while you're preparing for the USMLE. Now, Dr. Guarecuco, you are a senior resident and an ING mentor. Many INGs struggling with the decision of whether to expand the USMLE pathway or take additional time improving their clinical and academic profile. From your perspective, how should a candidate know when they are truly ready academically and mentally to take that critical exams?
This is a tricky question.
Yes.
So I will say something. You're never ready, right? You're never ready mentally. Academically, you're never ready either. But there are several things you need to take in consideration to make the decision, you know? And I think this is something that you need to find a mentor to discuss with. And that depends also what are your goals. Let's say, for example, you want to be a surgeon, right? You're going to apply to general surgery, like most of you probably want, right? So you need to do an evaluation of your profile. So what are your strengths and your weaknesses? First of all, my first recommendation always is to do a complete application, which means you must have all the basic requirements, right? Like for everything that you need to apply, which is the one, step two, OET, pathway done, ECFMG certified. So all these things are very important, right? At least that, right? But what also means having a complete application means having a good letter of recommendations. Therefore, you must have been either rotated in do some kind of rotation of services, or you have a really good network and you could apply for, you could ask for these letters. So have a good letters of recommendations. Okay. What's going to happen with most of you, those who does not have previous experience, like in my case, because in my case, my experience was an advantage, right? So most of the people, they do not have a prior residency. You're applying just for the first time. So most of you are in the same situation with no experience. So everybody is competing with the score or with the research publications or with who has the best letter of recommendation. So it's a competition. So the more, the better your profile, the higher chances you have to match. So if you apply very early and you don't have all the things that most of the people have, your chances of having an interview will be less than the rest of the people. That doesn't mean that is not the perfect time to apply. It's always not the best time to apply. Why? Most of you guys, IMGs, for the first time will match in a preliminary position, right?
Yes.
Even though you could apply for a category cut and you could match in your first time as a category cut, the highly likely thing to happen is to match in a preliminary year. So, but to match in a preliminary year, you don't need to be super ready to everything done. I would rather you to apply, missing something, but matching in a preliminary year and have that experience for the next cycle to have the whole package, meaning you will have also the step 3, the experience, a new PD letter of recommendation, right? The best application will be that you have absolutely everything. It's the 1, 2, 3, OET, ACFNG certificate, 3 strong letter of recommendation, certificates, all publications. That will be the the greatest. And a lot of networking for people who is able to, call by phone to a PD or maybe have a residents who are going to be endorsing you for an interview. Okay, so I will say ask for help, find for a mentor, you do a diagnosis of your profile, try to improve the things that you right now, like the application is in September, right? So the token will be in July. Then you have to fill up all your application July, August. By September 20, you will apply. And the interview will be most likely for surgery people, November, December, January, because October, you don't get the interviews in October. Because why? Because in October is the ACS National Conference, which is usually held in October the 20, 24, around that. So nobody will send an interviews before that because everybody will be asking, oh, I'm going to be in your interview, doctor. It's annoying. So nobody wants to, deal with that during the conference. So everybody will send the interviews after the conference. That's why. So you will have the interview for November, December, and January. So you really need to be prepared, mentally, won't never, you just need to, just go for it, think like a surgeon, just do it, and things will be, if that's meant to be, it's gonna be your spot. That's it. Everything is meant to be at a perfect time. But in regard the application, if you have at least ready, apply. At least you get a preliminary year, even in SOAP, it doesn't matter. That will be the best for you. Because what other thing is missing? Also, the migratory status. Maybe you need a J1 visa. Maybe you applying for an EB2. Maybe you are, there's so many things. about money. Let's talk about money. If you don't have money, how can you apply? If it's expensive, the process. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables that you need to take in consideration. But it is difficult. You have to try. But if the money is the problem, it's not a problem. You know, in this country, you can get a credit card. You can ask for lend money, whatever. Money is never a problem. Remember, you're gonna get paid as a resident, and you can get in debt and then pay that. So don't stress out about money. Money, you will get the money. Okay, so
Okay.
don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Guarecuco, for sharing your experience and insight. Dr. Pedro, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pedro. I'm a final year medical student from Peru. And it's a pleasure for me to be hearing from so many important people. Well, I will start to asking to Dr. Montañez. Your profile highlights postdoctoral research fellowship via IDMC Harvard, in University of Harvard. For ING looking to secure a high yield research position at an elite institution like Harvard, how do you land that role and how do you translate that position into meaningful connections for your interview season?
Yeah. So when before graduating from med school, I knew that once I graduated, I needed to secure like a research position in the US. So I started applying to a bunch of research positions. In ENT, there are not as many for that, like, kind of like take IMGs as researchers. But like I sent a bunch, like I'm not even kidding, like 150 emails. And that's what actually like what you should do. And like you're probably not gonna hear from them back, like from most of them, but it's okay. Like you keep sending emails. At the end, I also found this like organization. It's called IRI, International Research Initiative, and what IRI like does is like taking IMGs as researchers and kind of like matching them to like a lab in Boston, either with BIDMC, which is one of the hospitals there, or MGH, Mass General Hospital. So I applied to IRI, which I really, really recommend because it's specifically for IMG. So you have like more chances to get like a position there. So you apply there, like they kind of they have like their selection process. You have like interviews with like the directors of IRI, and then if they like your CV and they like you in the interviews, they find a lab for you. So in my case, I wanted ENT, so they talked to one of the ENT doctors at BADMC, and I had an interview with him, and I was lucky to get the position there. So I will say that for getting like a position, apply everywhere, send as many emails as you want, as you can, and also like prepare your CV. If you are able to do research while in med school, or if you already graduated from med school, doing research with people from your university in your home country, or kind of like doing, I don't know, systematic reviews or research that you can do like from your home country to kind of like have more experience in research. I think that's very important because, I mean, usually people in the US will hire people that are also in the US, or like med students are already in the US. So you have to kind of like stand out, and a way to do that is like preparing your CV and already having like research experience. So that I did a little bit of research during med school, not even in ENT because I didn't have like mentors in ENT back in Colombia, but like any experience works. So yeah, I will say like try to reach out to as many people as you can, and prepare your CV. I think those are the most important things for getting a position.
Okay, thank you very much for that advice. The next question is for Dr. Acosta. As someone who recently went through the match process, What do you think applicants misunderstand the most about building a strong surgical application? And what qualities do you think programs notice beyond the CV?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I one of the things that I would say would stand out is that it is with a caveat, but when people say that only American experience counts, there are reasons for that, but that's not 100% true. I can say from my personal experience that a big part of my interview at the program where I matched, one of the things they were the most interested in is one of my experiences from Venezuela. Now, this was not related to my letters of recommendation. That is a different story, and that should be focused on American letters of recommendation from American doctors for sure. But there are experiences that will count. In my case, I had an experience with Mayu, which is an outreach group, and it is something that to the American doctors and programs, it is very attractive to see how you went to under-resourced communities. In my case, I also had a leadership position within the organization, and I helped with the founding of the organization. So that highlighted some qualities of who I am that they don't necessarily need it to be from American experience. Of course, as much American experience as you can have, it is always going to add. It's not going to take away. But you don't have to necessarily discard all of your experience back home. You just have to strategically know which ones will count and which ones help, and not necessarily spend time trying to get letters of recommendation from big doctors back in your home country, because those will probably not help you as much with your application. Now, on the other hand, when you are going for that American experience, there's a lot of variables to take in account. There's paid observerships, there's observerships that you don't have to pay for, there's hands-on and hands-off. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into account, especially if you don't have the money to get the paid ones, or if you do have the money, but you'd rather spend it on other things like applying to match. So it is important to choose very specifically. I don't think I had the opportunity to find observerships that were not paid, and I did do some that were paid. I also did ones that were hands off and some that were hands on and off, sorry. So I think that in the end, the most important letters of recommendation came from doctors that were connected to other doctors that would go to Congress, that are forwarding research, that they know people and people know their name. And it also came from doctors that are within residency programs. Those will count more. I do find, like, I had the privilege to read some of the letters of recommendation that I got from those paid internships that were expensive, and I did my absolute best, and they were not from residency programs. And after the fact, I read those letters of recommendation, and they wrote amazing things. I was like so honored that they wrote such beautiful things about me. But in the end, as a matter of fact, during my first round of match, I did not match, and it wasn't necessarily what got me to where I am right now. So I had to pivot and find other doctors and other letters of recommendation. I still used some of those, but I also had to use other ones that were like better connected. I think that going beyond what the programs, like the numbers, the letters of recommendation, of that, the programs want to see that your application, the qualitative part of who you are, has to shine through that. So it's not just about how many to have 37 papers. It's not about having all the letters of recommendation. It's about how it shows that you are responsible, that you have work ethics, that you have leadership. That part, that shining through your personal statement, that is what is going to make the little difference between. I actually don't even have high step scores from step 1 or step 2. I have very, very average scores. And I believe that my qualitative and other things was what gave them the little push to be like, she seems like someone that's going to be worth our effort and our time to train.
Thank you very much, Dr. Acosta. I think Dr. Montañez.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like talking about what Dr. Acosta was saying and connecting it to the question you asked me. I think it's important to remember that when you get like a research position, uh, like always remember that you are not applying to a research. I mean, residency is not a research job; it's a clinical job. So I think that when you're doing research, yeah, it's very important to be productive, to be responsible for your projects, to show your mentors that you can finish what you start, and that you really you are a person that get the work done and you put all the effort in it. But always remember that residency is not a is not a research job. So you're not applying to a PhD. So I think that when you are already in a residency in a research position, like trying to like make this research opportunity, uh, being able like to show that you are also interested in like clinical stuff, that you also know like yeah your clinical things, like you are able to interact with other people. So for example, when I was in Boston doing my research fellowship, I not only like work in research, but I will also like go to clinic with my I will go to didactics with the residents. I will like go to the OR. I couldn't do anything, but I will just like observe and just like showing them that you are like you're interested. I think it's very important, and that's what's gonna get you like more like better layers of recommendation. And also like with the people that you're working with, those are gonna be like your biggest mentors, and you need them to be the people that are going to reach out to other programs and recommend you. And I really think that that's what helped me like matching. It was like people reaching out to other programs and saying like, hey, Valentina is good, you should interview her. Because like in ENT, and I think like maybe in surgery is the same, in general surgery is the same, like when programs see an IMG application, they sometimes they don't even read it if someone hasn't recommended this specific person. So you really need like the mentors, the even like the being like friends with the residents, so they can kind of like reach out to other programs for you, and also like write you letters of recommendation, asking them to review your application, asking them to read your personal statement and give you feedback. All of those things are very important. And I will also say that while you are doing your research, yeah, research fellowship or whatever research position, if you can ask your mentor, like, hey, can I have like a mini like observership or like a mini rotation with the program, so they can see like your clinical skills too? Or can I don't know, take a month off and go to this other program that I don't know, you have connections with, and do like another observership there? That's gonna, I think that's gonna like help you like stand out. And or like even I think like trying to like tell a story, it's important. So for example, when you apply and you get your interviews, like people are gonna ask you about your research, but like not everyone is like a research nerd and like want to know like all the statistical stuff that you did. Like they're not gonna care about that. What they want to hear is like what's your story? How does that project like belongs in your story? Or like what like other like skills you learn when doing that project? Kind of like, I don't know, being good, like working with other people, like being a good team player, things like that. So yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind all of those things to take like the like a bigger advantage of your research time, but not only focusing on research.
Yeah, I think that that little things or that attitude is what makes the difference. So the next question is for Dr. Guarijuco. As a senior resident IMG mentor and founder of Medicoach Academy, you experience both the residency and fellowship application. you experienced that process firsthand. Looking back, how has your approach to research and networking evolved over the years? And what separates applicants who are simply checking boxes from those who genuinely stand out to surgical programs?
Okay, I think this question is very important, not only for you, thinking in apply for the fellowship, but also when you're applying for resident. So everything comes to a plan. You need a plan, right? You need a strategy. You need to follow specific steps. So when you do everything in the correct way, everything will happen. Everything's gonna work out. For example, I knew since the beginning that I wanted to apply for minimally invasive fellowship, right? Which means it's bariatric, abdominal wall surgery, all these things, robotics. That's the part that I like. So as soon as I found out that that's what I want, you may find out find out that in your first year, in your second year, maybe your third year. Maybe you don't know yet. That's okay. Maybe you will like basket, whatever you like in the process of your residency. At some point, you need to kind of, put all the efforts towards that. So there's several things you need to do. First of all, your scores in the app site are very important. You need to try to score as high as you can, because this is going to help you. Not only if you are preliminary, will help you find the categorical, and will also help you find more interviews during your research application. But your research, not your fellowship application. During your residency, depending on which program you match, if it's a community hospital or an academic hospital. The community hospital, you won't focus on research because they do not have a research budget. But in the academic program, you may have the opportunity to have more opportunities to publish. But if you're in a community, it doesn't mean you cannot do research publication. That's where you have to find how to join different associations. For example, in my program is a small program, but we do have weird cases. So what I take those cases and I publish them as a case reports. That's the easiest thing to do. Then, if I don't have a strong research department, I join TROGSS. I join different associations and I start, publishing different things with different people, and being co-authors, a book chapters, different meta-analysis, things like that. Every little you will get these experiences, and at the end, all this, everything is about connections. And I always say, networking is the most important thing in your life in the United States for whatever thing you want to do. You will get your position with a strong network, not only in residency, but in a fellowship. For example, I wanted to stay only in Florida. I don't want to do my fellowship anywhere else. So I was only applying for 10 programs. Out of the 10 programs, I was able to get 6 interviews, because during all the time that I had in my residency, I wanted to reach out directly to all of these people. I know who are the program directors since I was PGY2. So I found rotations, elective rotations. I worked with them. I invited it. For example, one of the last that I met was, I invited him to the IMG event that we just did, and he was amazed. Now I found out that he put me on the rank number 1 on his rank list. But even though I didn't put him in my number 1, but I know that I'm already in a number 1 list, on one list. I know already that they put me number 1 in 3 different programs. But all this is because networking. Meaning, Dr. Oviedo is a person who everybody knows in the field. And the fact that he can, grab the phone and call in your behalf is something amazing. Then when I call for residents that I want them to have an interview, they know me because I've been in almost every single conference. I've been, in social media, on LinkedIn, in every surgical society. Now my name is being repeated multiple times. You have to be like that. You have to be everywhere, because they will say, "Oh, this is a person that I would like to have in my program," because it will bring something nice, something different that I don't have. Most of the people don't do that. Most of the people try to survive throughout the residence. More of the people, it's okay. But if you can do that extra effort, that will put your step ahead from a lot of people, and will make you go to the places that you really want to go. Instead of they choosing where you're gonna go, you will choose where you want to go. And that's a very powerful thing to have. And that's something that you start building from now, like from tomorrow, if you're listening to this webinar. Okay, so it's I probably you already have done it, because you are already part of TROGSS. You have been doing this, you're coordinating this, getting to meet how many people match in ENT as an IMG, Valentina, this year?
8.
It's 0.8%.
Yeah, and it was like a big number because it's usually like 4.
And this year was big. It was for the past 5 years is the most amount of people that have matched. So it's you have here one person that could change your future if you have a good. How do I do network? Yes, you get to meet, but you need to build a relationship, and then you have to follow up. The network, the connection is is asking, but also giving. It cannot be one way. It has to be one way and the other. You have to give in order to receive. So that's something that you need to build with time. And it's not that, okay, I met Valentina in this webinar, I'm gonna text tomorrow. Okay, Valentina, can I give an interview in your program? No, she doesn't even have a start. Like, give it a chance. You have to be strategic. You have to build that trust, build that people does not have to use this networking skill, and I think it's very important. Something to build, something to learn how to do, something how to reach out to the people, how to connect, and that's something very important that I would suggest you to guys start doing it since now, because the power of your network is your net worth. It's very important. Okay, so keep working on it.
Thank you very much for the advice. It's really a powerful message for every one of us. Well, we have a message, a question in the chat. The question from Ines Vaquerizo. She's asking, for an IMG who has not yet started preparing for the USMLE steps and is planning to apply to general surgery, would you recommend completing the rural service year in your home country? Or would you recommend focusing instead on the USMLE exams and strengthening their application to research experience, a strong step 2 score, clinical experience, and other aspects of their CV? Which path do you think will be more beneficial?
Okay, I'm gonna answer this real quick, because these also have different answers, and that's why I ask you, where are you? There's so many things you have to take in consideration. Money, migratory status, visa, what are you gonna do here in the United States? If you do not have the experience, like any clinical experience as a doctor, doing the rural year will be something amazing. Only to give back to your community, to work as a doctor for the first time in your life, getting your license complete. Like, this is something that I won't skip. But you can do both things at a time. The rural time, you're going to be there working, but you're going to have a lot of free time also to study. So you could do your step 2 during your rural year in whatever, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Serum, whatever, Venezuela. You can do it there, and you take your step in your country. And you can work for research as well, any place, like in a coffee shop in the small town in Brazil, you can do it. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, you can also do research. So you can do all the things that you mentioned at a time. It's just plan and strategy. You have to be organized. If this is your goal, you will find a time. I'm gonna work from 7 to 5 p.m., then to 5:30 to 7:30, I study step 2 hours. Then I'm going to dedicate 1 hour for research and 1 hour for networking. All these things you have to do. If this is your dream, you work hard for it. That's it. right? So yes, you can do everything together at a time.
I would like to highlight what Dr. Warakuko is saying, because I agree with everything you're saying, but specifically highlighting the fact that when you're doing your rural year in your home country, as he said, you should probably have some free time that is going to allow you to work on your steps. And it has two advantages, big advantages. One is you're going to get that clinical experience. In my case, that was another maybe not red, but pink flag that I had, is that I left my country without that year. So in all of these years, I only have volunteer experiences and observerships, but I don't have actual work job in a hospital that I had done. So that was something that was very uphill for me. So I would not recommend that if you can avoid it. And all the while you can study for your steps, and it's going to be cheaper. That's also true. The time that when you decide to come to the US, to use that time as efficiently as you can with your observerships, and shortening the time that you have to stay in the US before you match is going to also be financially probably better for you. So yeah.
And depending of your country, the institution who signed the letter for the pathway, one country will make you go through the pathway one, which means you have a license in your country just when you finish your rural year, or you have to do the pathway 6, that you have to do 6 different medical encounters here in the United States, and you have to go for each doctor have to fill a form, send it to ECFMG in order to your pathway to be approved. And this will take it's not as easy, will take some time. Both pathways are doable, but the pathway 1 is for sure if you have the rural, because in Venezuela, you only get the definitive license when you do the rural year. And this happened also probably in Peru and in Ecuador and in Colombia, and most of the Latin American countries, they do have that. So it will be nice to do with the pathway 1. You don't have to do anything else. You just send a letter from the colegio, from the school, medical school.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, Dr. Ines Batrizo. We have another question from Marcela Quispe from Peru. She's asking, when I was a medical student, I couldn't get a rotation in US. Now that I am a graduate, I find it difficult to find hands-on clinical experience. Can you please give me on this, or can I get a LOR from observership?
Yeah, well, in my case, when I was looking for observerships, the first options I found were the free observerships that you don't have to pay for, with a doctor a surgeon in Advent Health Orlando. And another thing that in my case, it ended up not working, but was also a step, was that even though he doesn't work in the Advent Health that has the residency program, he knows doctors from the branch that has the residency program. And after I finished it with him, I asked him, and I gave him an impression, and he was very motivated to help me. And so he recommended me to another doctor that is friends of him to go do an observership with him. In the end, unfortunately, for other scheduling issues, that didn't happen for me. But even though his letter of recommendation maybe wasn't as strong in that moment because he wasn't in the residency program, recommending me to the other doctor, and then getting that other letter of recommendation could have been very helpful for me, especially if I wanted to apply, which I did want to apply to the Advent Health in Orlando. So that is one way. And I found that asking through people first of all, I used to be part of a foundation, it's called Lumen Foundation. It also collects a lot of IMGs. It's a little bit like TROGSS, but it's oriented in a different way. But the networking I did within that organization gave me connections. And honestly, it was a coincidence that I ended up learning about this surgeon, because the person that was doing that observership did not want surgery, but I told her that, and she was like, "Oh, I'm with a surgeon, you should come." And so that opened that first door for me. But then the hands-on experience, I found that is the reason why I did the financial investment of paying for some observerships, because the part of the money that you're paying is to pay for the liability insurance, and that's how they got me the hands-on experience. with an organization called MD2B. I can write it in the chat in a second. And they will give you observerships, and they have many different specialties and many different states all across the US. And they will help to match you with something that works for you, given your possibilities, your financial like ability, or what states you prefer to be in. And those two, one of them, to some extent, I got a little disappointed because I thought it was in Austin, and it ended up being very far from Austin. It's a little town, but the good part about a smaller hospital in a small town is that the hands-on experience was full hands-on experience. The surgeon had a lot more leniency because she wasn't part of a big institution with all these policies and all these liability problems. And so she also had one-on-one time with me the entire time. So I was there assisting her in every single surgery that I was doing, and all the in-office procedures. She just let me help her with the suturing or like taking out like staples. So even though at first I got disappointed, it was a little town in the outskirts, very far from Austin, it ended up being an incredible experience. And that was one of the letters of recommendation from her, that even though she wasn't a surgeon that was very connected, she could say, I saw her suturing, I saw her doing things, and she's good. And she also is trainable because she improved. She was already good and she got even better in this short period of time. So the fact that I could show that I was trainable is also something that programs love to hear. And the other one was in Houston, and it was in a program, in a hospital that did not have a program, but the next year they did open a residency program. So that is a letter of recommendation from a doctor that is now, not when I did it, but now he is within a residency program. So I definitely recommend MD2B. Dr. Desai is the CEO. He was very nice, very welcoming. He does one-on-one interviews with you when you pay for their services, and they definitely it shows that they want to help. So I recommend that.
Okay, that was amazing. Thank you for all that information. I'm gonna do a brief message about our organization, TROGSS. Now that we are talking about the observerships, TROGSS has a program that is called the Intercontinental Internship Program. From our program, it happens that we have the opportunity to do an observership, a non-paid observership with Dr. Oviedo, who is the CEO of the organization. He is a metabolic robotic surgeon, so it's an incredible experience. It's not hands-on, but we have the chance to practice in the robot. We have the chance to do simulations, to do the academic activities, the rounds with the doctor. I know Dr. Susana did the program, and it was a great help in connections and a great experience. So you can access through the TROGSS link. We already shared it in the chat. Okay, now we're going to be moving forward to the third pillar of this webinar, which is mastering the match system and the interview room. These first questions are going to go for Dr. Montañez. The math of the application has changed drastically with the program signaling and geographic preferences. As an IMG applying to a highly specialized field like ENT, how did you strategically use your tokens and signals to beat the math of this match system?
Yeah. So ENT, when I applied, they did not have a geographical preferences, so I did not use that. But we do have tokens. Signals. In ENT, you only have, well, you have kind of like a lot of signals. You have 25 signals. So it's kind of like, if you don't send a signal to a program, it's kind of telling them like, oh, you're not in my top 25. So usually you only get interviews from programs that you did signal. Because also like in ENT, there's like 120 programs, so there are not that many programs. So I think that choosing where to send my signals was very like connected to like networking. Where did I know people? where my mentors knew people, and kind of like where I wanted to go. So for deciding where to send the signals, I met with my mentor, and I kind of asked, I kind of told him like, hey, these are the programs that, and also like knowing like what programs have matched IMGs before, which in ENT is not a very long list. So I kind of told my mentor like, hey, these are the programs that I know have matched IMGs before, so they might be like more open to matching another IMG. So I'm gonna send signals to them, and then I asked him like, where else could you like reach out for me, so I can send also like a signal to them. So that's kind of like how I decided where to send the signals. It very connected to like networking, and I will say like also like having like a reason of, because like when you send the signals, what I did is like I wrote like a specific personal statement for each one of those well, not all of them, but like I don't know, 10 of those programs. I can like in my personal statement I kind of like changed like the last paragraph, like telling them why I wanted to match there. So like having a specific reason of why you want to go through a program, I think kind of like adds up in your application. So for example, I sent a signal to Minnesota because like I wanted too much here, and I also like my mentor could reach out to the PD here. I sent a signal to another program where one of the ENT attendings in Boston like knew the chair, or like things like that. I think at least in ENT, it's kind of like how that works. Like and being like an IMG, like you have to try to separate your interview, like make your your application stand out. Not only like we having like a good CV and have like all the requirements, but also like kind of helping yourself with the networking and like those personal connections. Also like to places like where I have done like an observership or like a rotation, I also send signals to them because they already knew me. So yeah, that's how I decided it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that information. I know ENT is super hard, so I know the for IMGs there's not a long list of options that we can have to apply.
Yeah, and there are not
This
that many programs either. So
yeah,
you
your
really need to you
surgery is
really.
a long list, but ENT I remember because my girlfriend wanted ENT, so
Mhm.
it's not a
Right,
real
yeah.
long list when we did the search.
Yeah, so like I will say like networking is what really helps you there. Just as Dr. Guadalupe said. Yeah.
Okay, this next question is for Dr. Costa. Doctor, you match into a preliminary general surgery position at a major academic center like UIC. Building a rank list and deciding whether to apply preliminary versus categorical can be a difficult and very strategic decision for applicants. Based on your experience, what advice will you give to applicants navigating the uncertainties of the preliminary pathway?
So my my first thing to say regarding this is aim big, but always prepare for all the options. I think categorical is an option. It is a very tall ask. There are so many things that you have to take into consideration to prepare for, and especially prepare early. So if it with a year of graduation that is less than 3, maybe sometimes even less than 2 years of graduation, having American experience, hands-on, having high step scores, as Dr. Montañez said, over 250, those are going to be things that you have to have if you want to have a slight chance of matching for the first time as an IMG in a categorical position. It is extremely hard, and you have to be exceptional for them to take that risk on you. So that is the reason why in many programs, even if they know you, even if they like you as an IMG, they will always give you a preliminary position, and then you have to work your way into a categorical position. It is a viable option. It is what a lot of us have to do and will do, and it is perfectly fine. It does take a little bit of there is uncertainty. I am about to have to go back into the process of matching for next year, so it definitely keeps you on your toes, but it is possible. I have a friend that just graduated and is starting his fellowship, and he never matched. Every single year he had to find soap or he had to apply out of the season, and he went through the entirety of his residency and he has never gotten an email that says congratulations, you matched. And he is now a surgeon, so even without matching ever, you can still make it. I have a fellow Kaplan from Colombia, a fellow Kaplan friend that he matched into categorical right away. So there is a little bit, and I also have a co-resident right now in my incoming PGY1 cohort that I met her during my observership last year at UIC, and she was a prelim from Canada. And now this year she matched in the same program as a categorical, and she will, that is one thing that can happen, is that you might have to repeat first year. From preliminary, you have to do categorical from 1 to 5, but that is part of the process. If you are very lucky, in second year, you might be able to find someone that dropped off and get into a categorical position from a second year, but those are extremely rare and much harder to get into. And you would probably have to be very connected to get into one of those positions. There is another possibility, which is some programs, much smaller list, will have a PGY2 preliminary position. So some places, if you don't manage to get into a categorical position for the second year, you could also do a second preliminary year. Then after that, you would probably have to jump into a third year position, or you can do some research, which can give you a little bit of leeway between second and third year until you find someone that dropped off a categorical position on their second year, and you can grab a 3, 4, 5 slot to get into a categorical. So there's a lot of different options that you can navigate, and I don't even know how my journey is going to look like. I know what I could try and aim for, but one thing that I did remember suffering a lot, and in the end, my research and everything, is when you are building your rank list, an important thing to take into consideration is the algorithm is supposed to be built to favor the applicant. So to some extent, like when I applied to UIC, even though I knew 99% they were going to give me a prelim and not a categorical, I still put the categorical first, because in that case, I had the same institution one after the other. So that is the only way that I would ever get a categorical. Like if they wanted me to categorical, like if I have it first, that because that is actually what I want the most, that is going to improve my chances. Now, you do have to be strategic and understand that truly, as an IMG in surgery, unless you have absolutely exceptional top percentile scores and you are very early in your career, like the year of graduation of that, it is extremely rare for you to get a categorical position. So that is something that you really want to take into consideration and understand that even though you want to aim high, you still have to keep your feet on the ground and in reality. So I think that's my insight in that process.
That's really great. Yeah, we have to know how to play our cards in order to match into the preliminary and move forward to the categorical. It's not an easy job. Okay, this next question goes for Dr. Warikuku. As a chief resident at Larkin, you actively participate in interviewing and evaluating candidates. Now that you sit on the other side of the selection table, what are the subtle green flags or red flags you notice in applicants' demeanor during interviews?
Okay. Yes, I've been sitting in these interviews since my first year. And, when you get the interview, you already have passed a lot of filters, right? So we kind of already like you for whatever reason. Maybe you were recommended, maybe you had a great score, maybe you passed all the filters that we use. Remember, every program have different filters. For example, This year, my pro wants to have to match more girls than guys, for example. So we're gonna use the filter, the gender filter. Maybe we want only US MDs and DO, so we'll eliminate all the IMGs. Maybe I want half and half. So so the filters you can also a lot of filters. But when you get past everything and you are in the interview, the first thing that we want to know if you are weird or not. Like, are you a crazy person? Are you gonna be killing somebody in the next 5 years? Like, you can tell easy in 15 minutes if you are this guy is weird. Like I don't like it. If you have that feeling for to the people, you won't match. Like it's easy as that, right? So you have to. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this person does this person really knows what is really sure completely sure that he wants to be a surgeon, like if this is so it's confidence. If this person is confident, is can you tell that he's proactive, that he wants to work, you know and you can tell that as the way that you answer the question. Now that's why it's very important to practice the interviews. You cannot just go there and just pretend that you are gonna answer fine. No, you have to prepare. You have to you need to know what to say when they ask you, tell me about yourself. You have to be strategic. You need to know how to answer specific questions that you might have. For example, your years of graduation, any gap year, any red flag, any behavioral questions. There are so many questions that I can ask. But the best thing to do is if you have a strong tell me about yourself answer, which means it's connected with your story and it's connected with your personal statement, which is very, very important, right? And I always say this, if I ask you right now, what was the last movie that you watched? And you will say, I don't know, I watched Michael Jackson the last week. And I'm going to ask you, what was the thing that you liked the most of the movie? And maybe you're going to tell me, oh, when he was standing in the last concert and said, this is my last concert with the Jackson 5, because he was like Michael was the first, like a freeing himself for all these things that happened. So, and why you're remembering that? Because that has an emotion, and the emotion creates memories. So when you remember something, it's because it generated an emotion on you, and it could be any kind of emotion. It could be happiness, it could be sadness, it could be inspirational, motivational, it could be suspicious, mysterious, could be anything. But I will remember because you make me feel something. So your personal statement has to make me feel something. But not only that, when you introduce yourself and you connect that with your personal statement story, it becomes a powerful tool. And then I'm going to ask you more about you and about that story. I'm not going to go with my list of stupid questions like, okay, what would you do if a resident, blah, 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 blah. It's a list of questions that if they start asking you this question, it means that you tell me about yourself wasn't powerful enough. Because my second question should be something related to what you just said. If you are telling me a powerful story, I want to know more about it. Oh, really? And blah, 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 blah. And we'll ask you something. Then it becomes, I will remember, oh, this is the applicant who, blah, blah, blah. This is the applicant who is a ninja warrior. This is the applicant who plays piano and blah, blah, blah. This is the applicant who, do origami for cancer kids. This is the applicant who, so there are a lot of things that you might do or know, and you don't know that that's your skill or your something that make you like a unicorn. But that's what you have to think. What makes me different? And it could be a little tiny thing that you might not see interesting, but that's something powerful, and you could become a powerful story around that. The storytelling is very important. How you communicate. You are all listening to me because I'm accentuating the words, because I'm using my body, because I'm looking at you with my eyes, because I'm, using all these techniques that I've been practicing for years and years and years. So when you practice and practice and practice, you get the attention of the people, and they will remember you. So when you finish this, you will remember me because I've been telling you this, and I'm creating emotion, and my emotion is for you to go here and be the best of you can be, and go here, do networking, and go here, out of here, and start practicing you in your different communication skills. This is very important, guys. This will make you different, and this is what make you match. If I see that the person is nice, is easy to talk, is prepared with the questions, is not weird, we won't kill anyone, is not a weirdo, and then okay, I'm gonna, from the people that is there, okay, I like this guy or this girl, this must be the best fit for our program, and that's what we look, somebody that we can work for the next 5 or to 7 years, because some programs are 7 years, right? 5 to 7 years. So it's a big decision for the people who is there. We don't want to work with problematic people. So that's the thing that we look at the interview, and then we put everything in a balance. You know, how likable were you in the interview, your scores, your recommendations, and everything. And that's how we rank the people later on. So if you work on those skills, you will match.
That's an incredible insight. Yeah, we've always loved to hear from someone that it's been on the other side of the table, because we're very scared of the interview. But what you said, if when we get to the point of the interviews, because we have passed a lot of filters and the program might be interested in us. Dr. Acosta, you raise your hand.
Yes, I would love to add a little bit of my own experience in this process of like being likable and like finding your way through this interview process. I remember I wrote it in the comment section, but after the first year I practiced for my interviews, and I think I did a pretty decent job, but I did end up asking advice from other Venezuelan resident that did match, and she gave me this recommendation of this person that coaches you and gives you some help practicing for your interviews. And so I don't think it's a magic solution. You still have to practice, and I think precisely my point of this comment is that when I was practicing with this person, we were talking about like a fun fact or something like different about yourself. And one thing that I came up with, I was framing it in an interesting way, but during my whole journey, I did end up babysitting for a while, and one of the families that I babysat had 4 children, 2 pairs of twins, and it was obviously very challenging. But the parent was also a doctor, and so the fact that she was willing to put me in care of these 4 kids and keep them alive, and I was also teaching them piano, and we were doing all these things. It was like just an interesting, curious fact. After I do this and I have this answer prepared, I go to my interview for the Chicago program. And a couple of days before, I was staying with my best friend from medical school that I did all my career. We've been friends for, at this point, I don't know, 15 plus years. And I was telling him like, yeah, one of the answers is this. And then he's like, a fun fact about you were in a rock band in medical school, and you were singing, and you were doing all these things, and that's like a leadership position, and you were performing in public. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. So like as I think, like as a girl, and maybe in focusing, and maybe like that other doctor that she's a mom, I had that mindset. And then maybe as a female physician, someone that you are willing to give your children in charge is something that's very valuable. But for my fellow friend that is going to be a cardiologist, and he's a guy, for him, the fact that I was not a rock star, but I was in a rock band and I was singing. So for him, that was way more attractive. And it definitely made me think that even if you prepare answers for your interview, you also would want to cater that to the person that you're talking to, because you might have different answers depending on who you're talking to. As a matter of fact, that happened to me during the interview. In UIC, they have a very interesting, that I think is a very nice system, where they give you 4 interviews. It sounds crazy, but they have a good reason. They do partially blinded. So every single person that's interviewing you did not have access to your entire application, just parts of it. And then they have like a task. They are supposed to ask you one aspect of who you are, or your application, and then they go together, and all of their impressions are added into the pool, and they make a decision based on that. I think it's great. You have 4 different chances to impress in 4 different aspects of who you are. one of the things that happened to me is that one of the guys asked me, what would I do if I couldn't do surgery? And we were talking about your my wanting to help people and that like that vocation to help others. And but he was being very like he was trying to make me fall. He was trying to, it was hard questions and trying to see how I would answer under pressure and hard questions. He was after the fact I learned that he was actually evaluating your emotional maturity. Makes sense. And he told me after he asks me this, he says, but imagine, like, obviously your first answer when they tell you what happens if you can't do surgery, your first answer would be like, that's not a, like, I will do everything to do surgery. But he told me, imagine if they cut your hands. So I was like, okay. Like, there's no leniency here. There's no way around it. So I had to figure my way around that question. Literally 2 interviews later, in the last interview, which was not with the program director, but one of the very higher ups of the program, he asks me, what happens if you don't match and you can't do surgery? Funny enough, he didn't know that I actually had just come from the process of not matching the year before. And I had, the answer is, I will do exactly what I'm doing right now. But what I told him, I just thought about it, and reading the way that he was asking the question, I turned back and I told him, honestly, the first thought that comes to my mind when you say this, to ask me this, is that that's not an option for me. Surgery has always been my passion, and I will do anything and everything I can to continue pursuing that. Even if I don't match, I will continue to apply and find ways to improve and make a better application the next year. And then his answer was, that's what your personal statement told me. You don't look like someone that would give up easy. And I was like, yes. So different people ask me a very similar question, but because, reading the person and reading the situation, you would have completely different answers. And so, yeah, you have to be prepared for literally anything, even if they cut your hands.
That's an incredible experience. Okay, it's now 9:30. I think we've reached our time. Thank you very much for everyone that attended this meeting. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule from our speakers. On behalf of the TROGSS Youth Committee, I would like to sincerely thank our incredible, I would like to sincerely thank our incredible speakers for sharing not only their accomplishments, but also their honesty, challenges, personal experiences throughout their journey. Tonight's discussion reminded us that the path to surgical residency is not defined by a single exam score, a research project, or an achievement, but a persistence, growth, resilience, and authenticity over time. To everyone attending, we hope this session gave you not only a practical advice, but also reassurance that every journey is different and that success in the match process is possible with preparation, mentorship, and consistency. Thank you again, Dr. Montañez, Dr. Acosta, and Dr. Warikuku for your time and mentorship. And thank you everyone who joined us tonight. We look forward to seeing you in future TROGSS events, and have a wonderful evening.
Absolutely. Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.